So good afternoon everyone. By the way, we are the group 2 and we're going to report or discuss about the elements of art. So to start with, let me give you these two things. So in this world, to see is to believe, but I am more favor to what God said that to believe is to see. As he said in John 20:29, Jesus said unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. In accordance to the element of art, these two things are useful and make us realize on how to understand the art. Surely, if we don't believe that a work is an art, of course, we cannot see what the artwork wants to convey. On the other hand, with the help of the element of art, it is where the saying to see is to believe being fulfilled. Because of the element in art or what we see and feel in the art itself, it will help us to believe that the artwork has something to express. So let's proceed to the discussion proper. Elements of art. It is a stylistic features that are included within an art piece to help the artist communicate. So with the help of these elements, it will show the views, stories, or feelings within an artwork in order for the audience to communicate with it. The elements of art are both fun and useful. Yes, exactly. It is very nice to see and feel if there are lots of elements present in the artwork that could be used in order to understand the art itself. Then, by the way, the elements of art are divided into three: the visual, auditory, and combined elements of arts. And I'm going to talk about what is visual elements. So visual elements are the building blocks of art and design. Understanding the visual elements of art is a key importance to see like an artist. So there are 7 visual elements in total. They are line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space. Rather than looking at an object as what it represents, you will learn to see that object as an arrangement of different visual elements. Remember line, shape, form, space, texture, value, and color. Knowing these elements will allow us to analyze, appreciate, write, and chat about art, as well as being of helpful in creating our own arts. Artists manipulate these 7 elements, mix them in with principles of design, and compose a piece of art. Not every work of art contains every one of these elements, but at least 2 are always present. But I will not talk about all the visual elements of art specifically because my group mates will do it. So this is Maria Fijibertas, and let me call on the second reporter, Miss Desiree Cagadas.
Hi, my name is Maria Desiree Cagadas, and I will discuss the auditory art and the combined art. So let's start with auditory art. So auditory art, this include music in all its form, but not song, opera, or those art that combine music with literature. As you can see, visual art use medium of sight, and this auditory art use a medium of sound. And like the visual art, we have also the elements of auditory art. First is dynamics. This describes the volume that you can hear. Understanding music terms of dynamics include pianismo, piano, forte, fortissimo, crescendo, and decrescendo. The second one is the timbre. This describes the difference in sounds that produced by different instruments. The third one is the pitch. It's about high or low the sound is. The fourth one is the texture. Music can have many layers. This describes the difference between the thick and thin texture, as well as the meaning of monophonic, homophonic, and polyphonic textures. Ang monophonic is a music that has only one melodic line. For example, a group of people are all singing together without harmony or instrument. Dayon ang homophonic is kanang imong ma-heard nga sound nga naay harmony. Ang polyphonic naman is more than one independent melody nga nag-acquire sa iya at the same time. Example ani is a large instrument group such as bands or orchestras. The fifth element of auditory art is form. This describes the structure in a piece of music. And lastly, the rhythm. This is also about the timing of sound. For example, and the third element of art is the combined art. These refer to the events that combine variety of media or materials which can be both seen and heard, and which exist in both space and time. So ang combined art, in simple way, combination na siya sa visual arts and sa auditory arts. For example, theater. It is a collaborative form of performing arts that uses live performance, which means makita nato siya auditory arts and visual arts. Auditory because madungog nato ang unsay mga istorya sa mga actors on stage, and na siya visual arts because natay makita mismo. And that's the three elements of arts. Ang sunod na mga reporters, sila na ang mag-broad sa topic about the element of visual arts. These are the elements of visual arts. First is the line.
Is the foundation of all drawing. It is the first and most versatile of the visual elements. Line in an artwork can be used in many different ways. It can be used to suggest shape, pattern, form, structure, growth, depth, distance, rhythm, movement, and a range of emotions. The different types of lines. For example, curved lines suggest comfort and ease. Second, horizontal lines suggest distance and calm. Third is vertical lines suggest height and strength. Fourth is jog lines suggest turmoil and anxiety.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Clint Batukan, and I'll be reporting the elements of visual art, shape. Shape is an element of art that is two-dimensional, flat, or limited to height and width. All objects have shapes, whether they are rocks, puddles, flowers, shirts, houses, and many more. The word shape is used interchangeably in everyday language, but in art, they mean very different things, and it has a variety of uses in art. We typically think of a shape as a closed contour. So if you take a line and enclose it, then you will have created a shape. Shapes can play important roles in the creation of drawings and paintings. Shape can help to create complex drawings and paintings, affect composition, and contribute to the balance within a work. All shapes will fall into one of two categories. Shapes are either geometric or organic. Geometric shapes. Geometric shapes or regular shapes are easy to recognize. Usually, math can be used to find information about these shapes. Geometric shapes generally have a specific name associated with them. Some examples include circle, triangle, square, and rectangle. Many man-made objects are made in the form of geometric shapes, like cell phones, buildings, and wheels are all examples of man-made forms that resemble geometric shapes. Organic shapes. Organic or free-form shapes are shapes that seem to follow no rules. Organic shapes generally don't have a name associated with them and are typically not man-made. Organic shapes can resemble things that we find in nature. Examples include leaves, flowers, bird, tree, and etc. Some examples of an artwork that mainly uses shape are Ayers Rock by Elise Dodge, which uses geometric shapes, and Small Bouquet of Flowers in a Ceramic Vase by John Bruegel the Elder, which uses organic shapes. And that's all for the elements of visual art shape.
Elements of visual art. Color. An element of art made of three properties: the hue, value, and the intensity. The hue is the name of color itself. The value is the hue's lightness and darkness. A color's hue changes when white or black is added. The intensity, the quality of brightness and purity. High intensity, color is strong and bright. Low intensity, the color is faint and dull. Color has the strongest effect on our emotions. It is the element we use to create the mood or atmosphere of an artwork. There are many different approaches to use of color in art. First, color as light, color as pattern. Next is color as form, color as symbol. Next is color as movement, the color as harmony. Next is color as contrast. Last is the color as mood, and that is the elements of visual art, color.
There are 7 elements of art that are considered the building blocks of art as a whole. One of the elements of virtual art is value. Value deals with the lightness or darkness of a color. We see and understand objects because of how dark or light they are. By that, value is incredibly important to art. Value plays an important role in making the art realistic. Without strong values, a drawing looks flat. Using a value scale, you can be sure that you create a full range of value. Many artists use a value scale as they work, identifying specific values and adding them in appropriate spots. Value is most evident on the gray scale, where black is represented as lowest or darkest and white is represented as the highest or lightest value. Or more simply said, they are the various shades of gray between white and black. Artists use them to create highlights and shadows in objects. Value also creates an opportunity to set the mood, and there are 2 types of it, which is the low key and high key. Low key are paintings that exhibit mostly dark values and very few lights. Low-key paintings have very little contrast and seem to communicate a depressing, sad, or mysterious mood. Paintings with predominantly dark values often convey a sense of the nocturnal and secretive of things hidden just beyond sight. And the other one is high-key. These are paintings that feature mostly light values and very few darks. There isn't much contrast in a high-key painting. Usually, these paintings possess a light, happy mood. Female portraits are often high-key as they can convey delicacy, innocence, and dreaminess. Using both high and low-key colors in a painting can create contrast which often feels dramatic or exciting.
Another element of visual art is texture. Texture in art is the surface quality of an artwork. the roughness or smoothness of the material from which it is made. We experience texture in two ways: optically, which means through sight, and physically, which is through touch. There are also three types of texture: the optical texture, the physical texture, and the ephemeral texture. In the optical texture, the artist may use his or her skillful painting technique to create the illusion of texture. Let us take, for example, the artwork of Dwayne Hansen. Dwayne Hansen takes optical texture to the ultimate level of realism in his life-size sculpture of a man on a bench. He cast this dejected figure from life, heightening its accuracy with subtle painted veins shining through its translucent wrinkled skin. The addition of fastidious details like naturalistic eyes, lashes, and stubbly eyebrows, the thinning gray hair, the socially defining and age-appropriate clothes, lifts the work to an uncanny level of deception. Another type of texture is the physical texture. This is where the artist may paint with expressive brushstrokes whose texture conveys the physical and emotional energy of both the artist and his or her subject. They may also use the natural texture of their materials to suggest their own unique qualities, such as the grain of wood, the grittiness of sand, the flaking of rust, the coarseness of cloth, and the smear of paint. Let us observe the painting done by Vincent Van Gogh. In his famous self-portrait of 1889 from the Musée d'Orsay, Vincent Van Gogh uses the physical texture of paint not only to fashion his own likeness, but also to reveal his psychological disposition. The planes of his face and texture of his hair are boldly hatched in contours of expressive brushstrokes which, despite their feverish energy, hold together as a tightly drawn portrait. The psychological intensity of the image unwinds from his eyes like a wave, discharging its energy through the swirling strokes of his jacket and into the turbulent flow of the background. Another type of texture is the physical texture. This is where the artist may paint with expressive brushstrokes whose texture conveys the physical and emotional energy of both the artist and his or her subject. They may also use the natural texture of their materials to suggest their own unique qualities, such as the grain of wood, the grittiness of sand, the flaking of rust, the coarseness of cloth, and the smear of paint. Let us observe the painting done by Vincent Van Gogh. In his famous self-portrait of 1889 from the Musée d'Orsay, Vincent Van Gogh uses the physical texture of paint not only to fashion his own likeness, but also to reveal his psychological disposition. The planes of his face and texture of his hair are boldly hatched in contours of expressive brushstrokes which, despite their feverish energy, hold together as a tightly drawn portrait. The psychological intensity of the image unwinds from his eyes like a wave, discharging its energy through the swirling strokes of his jacket and into the turbulent flow of the background. And lastly is the ephemeral texture. This is the third category of textures whose fleeting forms are subject to change, like clouds, smoke, flames, bubbles, and liquids. In the painting done by David Hockney, A Bigger Splash is one of a series of swimming pool paintings that David Hockney used to explore various methods of representing the ephemeral texture of water. It also involved his continual interest in the relationship between painting and photographic methods of recording what we see. You can observe the development of these ideas in the way he uses photography to enable him to see what is invisible to the naked eye. The splash is painted from a photographic source found in a magazine about swimming pools, while the rest of the image is based on his drawings of Californian buildings. The ephemeral texture of the splash only becomes visible to the naked eye when it is frozen in a photograph.
Good day everyone, I am Rex Consancho and I will talk about form and space. So what is a form? So a form is one of the elements of art which are the visual tools that an artist uses to compose a work of art. In addition, form includes line, shape, value, color, texture, and space. As an element of art, form brings something that is three-dimensional and encloses volume having length, width, and height. A form is a shape in three dimensions, and like shapes, can be geometric or organic. Three-dimensional form is the basis of sculpture, furniture, and decorative arts. Form may be also a free-flowing. When shape acquires depth and becomes three-dimensional, it takes on form. And some of the common forms are cones, pyramids, spheres, and cubes. And let's talk about space. And what is also a space? So, space, guys, is one of the components of art by which positive and negative areas are characterized or a sense of depth achieved in a work of art. A space is any area that an artist makes for a particular reason. Space can be a positive or negative, and a positive space is an area involved by an object or frame, while the negative space is the area that runs between, though, and around or inside objects. This includes foundation, closer view, and color. The relation of positive space to negative space can significantly influence the impact of the work of art.
And that's the work of Group 2. Thank you.